whether you're talking about a car like this, or you're talking about a Miata, or name your sports car, I mean, a Porsche 911, for example, it benefits all of us to have an automatic transmission option. And this isn't any sort of super high-tech, fancy dual clutch automatic or anything like that. This is just your pretty standard run-of-the-mill torque converter 6-speed auto. But the rest of the car is so tight that the tightness of this simple transmission really does work well with the car. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and through a strange set of circumstances, I am spending about 24 hours with the 2023 Toyota GR86 10th Anniversary Edition. Every time I get behind the wheel of a GR86 or a BRZ, I might accidentally say that throughout the video, but either one, I'm just reminded how much I appreciate and enjoy the fact that this car exists. And this one is even more interesting because this is an automatic. I've driven a few different GR86 automatics before, but just for short periods of time. I think I had one on track briefly. I drove one up a canyon road about a few months ago or so. It was a little bit modified. And I gotta say, I appreciate that the automatic GR86 exists. So we're gonna go for a little bit of drive. We're gonna talk about why I think the automatic is good in this car. And then, yeah, we'll just get a little two-door, 2+2 coupe rear-wheel drive driving fun, because that's what this car exists for, is enjoying driving. And I gotta say, I am a fan of any orange coupe. Coupe, convertible, heck, even a sedan. I'll take it in orange, please. 10th Anniversary Edition has some fun bits. We've got 10th Anniversary stitching on the door, some Alcantara. Let's get some air conditioning going. Let's see if we've got a window sticker as well. I do want to check on the final price the way we're looking at it here. If I remember correctly, it's I don't know, pricing is so weird with cars these days, so I don't necessarily want to say it's not reasonable, but I think I remember it being a little on the pricey side, but they're only making like 800 some of these, 806 I want to say. So I mean, you're paying a bit of a premium to get a little bit of that exclusivity. We're looking at $37,000 for this bad boy. That's including some courtesy delivery, apparently, some all-weather floor mats, and this is the premium model on top of the anniversary edition. So 10th Anniversary SE Premium. That's given us things like the 8-speaker sound system, which we've reviewed below. You can find that in the link below. We've got heated seats, ultra suede they call it, special edition commemorative plaque, GR Sport wheel, solar shift. Is that the color? Solar orange pearls, the outside, and the solar shift, these orange bits in the inside. So, I mean, in today's day and age, 37 is not cheap, and I think for 24 they just announced some price upgrades that you can no longer get one of these under $30,000, but the driving experience it provides is still pretty darn compelling. So I'm not going to get too much into pricing. It's up to you to decide if it's worth it here. That's such a subjective phrase when it comes to cars that aren't kind of necessary transportation, if you will. Man, I love having these on loose surfaces. I really do. So automatic GR86. There are people claiming sacrilege, because if you are, you're probably the same sort of person who claims sacrilege to have an automatic Miata. And I don't think you all realize that automatics help cars like this exist, because whether we like to admit it or not, and by we, I'm kind of including driving enthusiasts or people who like manual transmission cars and like sports cars, we are a dying breed. There are fewer and fewer people who care to have their vehicle be propelled via a manual shifting transmission. A lot of people would rather just get in and have the car shift for themselves. And I have to say, I can empathize with those people a good bit. Moving out here to Southern California, we have some of the best driving roads and beautiful weather. I mean, today's 75 degrees, partly cloudy. It's mid-November. I know Chris back in Michigan is not getting anything like this. So yeah, when we're out here on these canyon roads, admittedly, it'd be nice to have a manual transmission and be rowing my own. But later on tonight, Alyssa and I are going to drive this car up through downtown Los Angeles. And I can guarantee you that I would much rather be in an automatic torque converter transmission like this than shifting the manual. So there certainly is a time and a place, and if you have the type of heavy commute or sort of driving environment that isn't conducive to having a manual transmission car, being able to still get a good package like this but have the car do the shifting for you, or obviously be able to shift it back and still control things manually, having that option is invaluable. I mean, it really, really is. So whether you're talking about a car like this, or you're talking about a Miata, or name your sports car, I mean, a Porsche 911, for example, it benefits all of us to have an automatic transmission option. Not only that, a lot of people don't even know how to drive manual transmission anymore. So if they're not interested in learning, they don't have somebody to teach them, a car on which to learn, then what, are they just not even going to consider a vehicle that doesn't come in automatic? So say the GR86 here only came in manual, then they probably just wouldn't even buy this car, and they would instead opt to purchase a vehicle that does come in an automatic transmission. So all of a sudden, Toyota then would be losing sales, and the sales wouldn't be as impressive on a car like this, and it might end up resulting in them just discontinuing the model altogether, rather than offering both an automatic and a manual transmission. Also, a lot of people act as though if you don't have a manual, you can't have fun in the car, and I really think that's overstated. Here out on a twisty canyon road, we're shifted into manual, we're in track mode, I'm gonna dial it up. And this isn't any sort of super high-tech, fancy dual clutch automatic or anything like that. This is just your pretty standard run-of-the-mill torque converter 6-speed auto. But the rest of the car is so tight that the tightness of this simple transmission really does work well with the car. It by no means means that I can't come out on this twisty road and have a whole bunch of fun and enjoy driving a car like this. If anything, it simply adds to the bandwidth of what I'm able to do with the car and what I am not pulling my hair out having to do. An experience that I had recently that really convinced me of this idea that automatics are a good option on these cars is we were out in the canyons with a number of subscribers, and we had all sorts of cars up there. We had Corvette Z06, we had a 987 Cayman S, we had an older S2000, we had an RX-7, and among all those cars was a 2022 GR86 automatic with some performance upgrades. I don't think there was anything engine related, but it had a wing on the back and maybe a little bit to do with suspension. And to be honest with you, out of all of the used cars I drove that day, I enjoyed driving the mountain roads in the GR86 the most. And it was an automatic. We had an S2000. We had that 987 Cayman. I mean, I preferred the tightness and the driving experience of that car, regardless of the transmission. And would I have enjoyed it a little bit more with the manual transmission? Probably. But that person, that owner, they didn't care to have a manual transmission. They were perfectly happy with an automatic, and it didn't kill the car for me. We're way past the days where having an automatic kills the joy in a car. You can still totally hang the rear end out with an automatic as well. Now, I will say, in the GR86, the automatic mode for shifting is trash. I'm here in track mode right now, and if I am not flooring it, essentially, look how quickly it upshifts. So there's no sort of like smart mode where you could drive on track and have it do the shifting for you. It's not like one of the more advanced automatic transmissions in a Porsche or a Corvette or something like that. But again, I'm honestly okay with that, because somebody buying an 86 can at least shift with the paddle shifters on their own and do that aspect. So I'm glad that they didn't spend a bunch of extra money and development costs in programming some really advanced technical dual clutch automatic or anything like that. Instead said, hey, you can do it yourself if you want it to be speedy, but in auto mode, it's just going to drive like an car. only thing that I'm always bothered by with the GR86 is the fake noise. My goodness, driving the Topher's car that has that fake piped-in noise undone and disabled, it's so much better in that one. And in general, I'm just not a big fan of this engine. I don't really love the character of it. I don't really love the noises it makes. But the chassis and the way the car drives and the ethos is worth it to me. If anyone wants to do a high-revving inline-4 motor swap on a GR86 and let me have a spin, then I am interested. Also, that Prius absolutely flossing it. Another advantage that I'm just now thinking of with an automatic transmission is the ability to share your car. I think a lot of us live in households where perhaps somebody that we share cars with, roommates or spouses or siblings or anything like that, they might either not be able to drive a manual transmission or kind of know how but really not be very interested in it. So again, having an automatic in the household means that all of a sudden, oh, their car is able to be driven by other members in the household rather than it being restricted to the one person. And for some people, that's a really big deal. I know that my father has an automatic transmission car so that my stepmother can drive it. So if you are a fan of sports cars like this, you need to support the automatic movement. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out and buy them. In fact, you should go out and buy the manual cars so that those still exist too. So you should purchase the manuals, but support people who purchase the automatics as well. Don't shame them. And don't shame automakers for putting automatic transmissions in cars like this, because all it does is make the automotive landscape just that much more colorful. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the 86, we've covered it ad nauseum in various ways. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, automatic on.